Is it possible for you to get out of debt virtually overnight? Well, it absolutely is, and I'm going to share with you exactly how. In this video, I'm going to showcase to you exactly what your steps should be to get yourself out of debt. So then that way you can maybe have a little bit of breathing room and then ultimately use credit as your friend to help you build wealth. So I have a lot of stuff to get to, so buckle up your seatbelts because here we go. Okay, so I don't know how much debt you're in right now, but start to take a mental tally of exactly how much you owe total. And I'm talking about credit cards mostly and revolving open loans, for example. So if you have a car loan, we're not including that. If you have a mortgage, we're not including that as well because we're going to keep those separate. But if you have credit cards, like start to get a tally in your head of how much you owe in credit card debt, or how much you owe in signature loans if you have signature loans. And maybe even get a piece of paper out and just kind of jot down some numbers for yourself. So then that way you have an idea of exactly how much we're talking about. Because what we're going to be doing here is going through some steps on how you can get out of debt in the quickest amount of time possible. Maybe using a strategy that you may or may not have thought about, maybe kind of heard about but didn't know if it was possible for you, or maybe it's something that you have been kind of like squeamish about, like not wanting to do. But I will tell you that this can be a lifesaver for you if you decide to take these steps, because this can ultimately change your life. So what I'm going to be sharing with you is exactly how you can go from, say for example, you owe $25,000 in debt, and I'm just kind of spitballing because I don't know how much you owe. But if you owe $25,000 in debt, maybe you're getting behind on payments, maybe you have a bunch of lates, maybe you're getting swallowed alive with those exuberant fees that you have to pay for either being late, or the interest rates are really high, like maybe they're 29%, and you really need to be able to get a handle on this debt thing, but maybe you thought, maybe I just won't pay. Well, that's not a good option because your credit rating is everything in today's society. You needed to rent an apartment or a house. You needed to get a good job. You needed to buy a new car. You need credit for pretty much everything these days. So if you're letting your credit go, I strongly advise you against it. And if you started the process of letting your credit cards go or your loans go and you stop making payments, I strongly urge you to consider this strategy first before you completely trash your credit. So the subject that I'm going to get to today is debt consolidation. Now you're probably thinking, no, that's not sexy at all, and that's not like a whiz-bang thing that I was expecting in this video. Well, you're right, because it's an old, tried, true, tested and proven strategy and method to be able to get you out of debt as quickly as possible so that you could start to rebuild your credit before you damage it beyond the point of no return. So my strongest recommendation to you is to start thinking about different credit consolidation or debt consolidation companies. Like for example, there's National Debt Relief. That is one option for you. There's Freedom Debt Relief. There's Accredited Debt Relief, which Accredited Debt Relief, they're the ones that will be able to offer you the very best option to be able to essentially round up all your debt and allow you to start over. Now you're probably wondering, well, how does debt consolidation work? Well, basically they'll take your credit card. Say for example, you have 5 credit cards and you owe $1,000 each on each credit card. What they'll do is they'll just kind of compile all of those together. They'll pay off all of those balances with those credit companies, those credit cards, and then they'll put it under one lump sum so that you can just pay that one lump sum of that total $5,000 in debt to this one credit consolidation company instead of all individually. And in many cases, not all cases, but many cases, most cases in fact, you'll be paying a much lower interest rate collectively under one debt umbrella with the debt consolidation company. So this is why you want to consider doing this, because you can lower your rate to maybe 9-10% rather than paying that 29% interest plus compounding fees and lates and so forth that's really screwing over your credit right now. So those are the three main ones that you might want to consider. So you're probably wondering, well, which debt consolidation companies would be good for me? Like, which one should I consider? Well, for example, you can consider J.G. Wentworth, which works with people with bad credit. So if you have bad credit, meaning that you have lower than, say, a 680 mid FICO, maybe even way lower than that, then you want to consider some of the low credit or bad credit debt consolidation companies. So for example, you could also use Discover. Discover will actually offer programs. It's just, unfortunately, with Discover, you do have to have a decent FICO score to be able to get Discover, but you can get some of the lower debt consolidation interest rates. So if you do have a really good relationship with Discover, maybe you have a Discover credit card or a Discover bank account, in which case you can definitely naturally use Discover to help you with your debt consolidation needs. A lot of people don't think in terms of that. Some other debt consolidation companies that you might want to consider. One of my favorites, though, is Accredited Debt Relief. They have such a high rating, and they really do help people consolidate all of their debt as quickly as possible. So then that way it kind of gets you out from underneath that debt hellhole that you're probably in when it comes to the super high interest rates and the compounding interest and all of the fees and fines and stuff that they're just kind of tacking on unnecessarily. You might also want to take a look at LendingTree. LendingTree, believe it or not, actually has quite a bit of options to be able to help you find adequate debt consolidation companies. One of the lowest FICO score debt consolidation companies is called Upstart. They can actually get you a debt consolidation loan with as little as a 300 FICO score, which is like the lowest FICO score you can get or have. And so if you do have a low FICO score and you're thinking, Monica, I thought about this debt consolidation thing, but I don't qualify. Yes, you do. You can go with a company called Upstart, and Upstart can help you consolidate your loans. Now, you're not going to get the lowest interest rate because it is for people with severe low FICO scores, but it is a way to be able to consolidate your debt if you are in fact serious about getting everything consolidated. So then that way you can essentially start your credit journey all over again. Prosper is another one. They need a mid FICO of about 560 to be able to help you out. But Prosper is a really good way to be able to use debt consolidation to be able to get ahead and to be able to get some breathing room with your debts. Another one is Upgrade. Upgrade is a company that needs a 580 mid FICO score to be able to help you with your debt consolidation needs. So, depending on what your mid FICO score is, will determine which options you should take. And so, again, if you are really low basement bottom, you definitely don't have a lot of options, in which case you're going to have to consider using Upstart, which Upstart has a 300 FICO score minimum, and that's the lowest you can go with your FICO score. So what happens with debt consolidation? Like, how does this work? Okay, so let's pretend like you need $25,000 to cover all of your current credit card and signature loan obligations to be able to kind of get you that breathing room to be able to start your credit journey all over again. Like, how does this look? Well, first of all, you contact one of the debt consolidation companies and get qualified. And so essentially what will happen is they will say, okay, you qualify. We can get you the $25,000. We can pay off your loans and your credit cards. And it will be now one loan that you pay every single month to them until the $25,000 balance is paid off, plus whatever fees and interest that they're charging. And so that's how the debt consolidation works, is that they give you one loan to kind of wrap up all of the other loans and credit cards that you had, spread out everywhere under one umbrella, one loan umbrella. And so you're probably thinking, okay, does this mean that I'm going to lose my credit cards? You don't lose your credit cards. It's literally like, I don't know, maybe you have a rich Aunt Mary who decides that she wants to pay off all your credit cards one day because she wants to be nice. And so she decides to call up all your creditors and, have them draft out money out of her bank account into your balances for your credit cards and your loans, and it's paid. So that's essentially what happens. And so you don't lose those credit cards. You don't lose the loan unless it's not a revolving loan. If it's a closed loan, meaning that it's a signature loan, and once it's paid, it's closed, then you don't have the loan anymore. But if it's a revolving line of credit, then you would still have access to that revolving line of credit. Now, this is really imperative that you understand this, because what typically happens is that when people have all of their debts paid off and they now have free reign to all these credit cards that were maxed out before and now they all have zero balances, you might be thinking, yay, party, let's go get some, a bottle service at the local bar to be able to celebrate. You don't want to rack up that credit anymore. You don't want to strain the credit system, because what will end up happening is, yes, it will probably lower your FICO a little bit for a short period of time, at least 6 months, while you establish this new loan. So for example, even though, say, your 5 credit cards are now paid off and you have a zero balance on 5 credit cards, you now have a new $25,000 personal loan on your credit, which will lower your FICO score for a period of time, usually between 6 and 12 months, until they can see what your payment history is going to be on this new loan. So you now have access to those 5 credit cards or whatever they were, however many you had, and they have a zero balance. So what do you do with that? Do you decide to do the typical American thing, and that is to rack them all up again and then end up in the same boat 6 months to 12 months from now? The answer is no, I hope not. Okay. So if you are in the situation where you don't have enough money to survive and you need that credit to be able to survive, I strongly urge you to find some kind of profitable side hustle. I do have some options and some suggestions for you in the description box below if you want to check that out. But the reality is you cannot live on credit cards for the rest of your life. Like if you are in need of making, say, $5,000 a month to be able to make and meet all your bills, but you're only making $3,000 a month and there's a deficit of $2,000 a month that you need to borrow credit to be able to survive, that's a problem. Okay, and you need to remedy that problem right away. Because if you don't, what's going to end up happening is over the course of 12 months, you are now back in debt $24,000 because you needed that $2,000 a month bridge to be able to survive and be able to meet all of your expenses. The reality is this, folks, hyperinflation, hello, it's not going anywhere. Food costs are going to continue to be more expensive as time goes on. Gas prices, utility prices, prescription drug prices. I don't care who ends up in the White House. Reality is, let's just be real here between you and I. Okay, let's be real. I don't care which side of the aisle you're on. Reality is this. Things 10 years from now will be much more expensive than it is today. Okay? Don't care who is politically involved in anything at this point. The reality is things continue to go up and will continue to go up forever. So you have a choice here. Do I choose to sit around and cry about it? Do I choose to be a victim? Do I choose to, overextend myself on credit to survive? Or do I choose to finally become financially literate, which is something that they didn't give you as a child or growing up, is financial literacy. And they did that on purpose, by the way. I should mention that Rockefeller was the one who invented the school system back in 1902. And I think we all know who Rockefeller was. He was one of the richest men in the entire world at that time in 1902. And why do you think he created the school board, the school system? And that was because he needed worker bees and people to work for his manufacturing plants, manage his entire operation, and build his wealth for him. And he needed to put kids, starting from a very young age at a specific schedule. If you think in terms of the schedule, you think, okay, Monday through Friday, you start school at X time, you get breaks at X time, you get lunch at X time, you leave at X time, 5 days a week, okay? That design was not an accident, okay? They brainwashed these kids, you and me included, from a very tiny age, kindergarten, sometimes preschool, depending on when you started school, to go through and be so brainwashed and indoctrinated on how the schedule is that you don't question it when you go into the workforce when you're in your teens and 20s or whenever you start working. So please note that so many of us are so brainwashed in the way things are. And on top of that, when we're brainwashed, they don't teach us financial literacy. They teach us all the busy work to be able to further indoctrinate us to do their busy work for their businesses, to continue building their dream and their wealth and their legacy, and having zero Zippo to do for you, okay? So what we need to do is become financially literate. And it starts with understanding how credit works, understanding how you can use OPM or other people's money, unsecured credit, namely unsecured business or corporate credit, to be able to ultimately use to build wealth for yourself. Because these same little known unorthodox loopholes that are available for the super wealthy and the rich are also available to you as well. It's just you need to be financially literate. So let's take your situation. So say, for example, you do decide to go with one of the companies that I recommend as far as debt consolidation, and you consolidate your $25,000 in debt or whatever it is. Now you have a clean slate. Yes, you have a lump sum payment that you have to pay every single month. And by the way, start paying your damn bills on time, okay? Don't try to finagle your way through or make excuses. If you got to collect cans or sell things on eBay to be able to make it month to month until you can find a really good solid side hustle, then do it. But you need to start making the commitment to paying your bills on time every single month, including and especially that debt consolidation loan, because now you'll have a debt consolidation loan and you'll still have access to those credit cards that are now a zero balance. So you could decide, what do I do with the zero balance credit cards? And the answer is nothing. Okay, cut some of them up, put them in a safe, don't use them. Maybe use one card to be able to get gas and to be able to get groceries, because I do recommend that you never use your ATM or debit card when getting gas or groceries, because that's how you can get your stuff ripped off. There's so many scams out there, so many different swipers at, different gas pumps and so forth. You never want to use your ATM or debit card at a gas pump, especially. You never want to use it at a grocery store. The only time you should ever use your ATM card is actually at the bank to get money out, and that is it. Okay, so use one credit card or maybe two for your groceries and so forth, and make sure you pay it off at the end of every single month. Get yourself a really good, profitable side hustle that maybe takes only a few hours a week for you to be able to do, to bring in a couple $100 extra a week to be able to start building wealth for yourself. And then finally, while you're rebuilding your personal credit and fixing it, at the same time, you should be considering getting yourself a for-profit corporation in your home state or in one of the anonymous states, which is either New Mexico, Nevada, Wyoming, or Delaware. And get yourself a for-profit corporation with an EIN number, which is essentially the employer identification number or the social security number for your corporation, and start building business credit too. So once your mid-FICO score ends up to be well over 680, so ideally you want it to be over 720, and ideally you want it to be at 750 or above, but say you're at 720, then you can get yourself your first business credit card. And as long as it's not a Discover Business or it's not a Capital One Sparks card, it will not report on your personal credit. So you can get yourself an American Express business card with the EIN number and with your personal social security number when you apply for this American Express. And so you start to build business credit. And business credit is when you can really have leverage when it comes to building wealth for yourself. So I have a lot of other videos on how to use this cash to be able to ultimately get free businesses, to where you could actually borrow the money at a 0% APR promotional period for, say, a year or so on some of these credit cards, like a Citibank card or Chase Inc., whoever's having these 0% APR promotional periods. And you can use that money, as long as you're making your minimum payment every month, to buy a business that's already cash flowing. Use the cash flow from that business and pay the monthly payment every single month, pay off the credit card, and you essentially got a free business out of the deal. This is how the wealthy people think, and this is what happens when you gain what we call financial literacy. And until you actually start to study these things and understand how the wealthy people do it, even on a small scale, you too can also be wealthy using these very same loopholes, these OPM leveraged loopholes, to where you can ultimately start to build wealth for yourself as well. And even better, you don't even have to use your own money to do it. But it all starts with getting your personal credit under wraps. And the best way to do that, if you're not able to breathe and you feel like you're sinking and you're already starting to get late on payments and you just want to be able to consolidate that debt. And the first and foremost thing you need to do is look at a really solid debt consolidation company. Do that this week. Do it immediately. Don't stall. Don't drag your feet. Don't wait around, because this is the first step to fixing your credit, rebuilding your credit, keeping your credit integrity, because you do need to have that credit to be able to ultimately build wealth for yourself. So if you found that this content was helpful, please give me a nice thumbs up. Consider subscribing to my channel, because I have a lot of stuff to bring to you, especially when it comes to building wealth using free 0% APR promotional period money that you can get as unsecured credit. I have a lot of stuff to bring to you on that, how to use different businesses to leverage yourself and getting cash flow, a lot of things to bring to you. Also, if there's a specific topic that you'd like me to cover when it comes to credit, when it comes to building a business, when it comes to cash flow, let me know in the comments section. I'll be more than happy to, get a video rolling on that for you. So then that way you can continue your financial literacy and you can get a leg up, because most people are wasting their time on Netflix. They're wasting their time scrolling on Facebook. They're just wasting their time. And in the interim, I have the deepest respect for you right now, because you're watching this video and you are at least trying to gain some kind of financial literacy that can help build wealth for yourself and your family for maybe this generation, maybe the next 20 generations, depending on how far you get with this process. But it all starts today, right now, here, with consolidating that debt and starting to start from a clean credit slate, so then that way you can start to build business credit and start to build wealth for yourself and your family. And then eventually, hopefully within the next 12 months or so, ditch that 9-to-5 job that you hate and start to live a true life of financial freedom. So this is Monica Main signing off, and I will see you in the next video.